The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Barris stepped to the podium, his weathered hands gripping the edges of the crystalline lectern. Around him, representatives from 300 species watched with a mixture of curiosity and barely concealed disdain. Humans were still the newcomers here, having joined the galactic community only 50 years prior. "Honored delegates," Barris began, his voice carrying across the vast amphitheater, "I stand before you today to issue a formal warning regarding the Nexus, Empire's continued aggression toward human colonies." A ripple of what could only be described as laughter emanated from the Nexus delegation. Creatures resembling bipedal sharks, with forearms and bioluminescent patches along their necks. Their leader, Warprime Zethak, rose from his seat. "The small flesh speaks of warnings?" Zethak's voice boomed through his translation implant. "Your species has existed in space for barely a cosmic heartbeat. We have conquered systems when your ancestors were still crawling in mud." Barris remained calm, though his jaw tightened slightly. "The Nexus Empire has destroyed 3 of our agricultural worlds, killing over 2 million civilians. We've attempted diplomatic resolution for 18 months. This is our final warning." "And what will you do, soft skin?" Zethak's bioluminescent patches pulsed with amusement. "Send your primitive ships to face the might of an empire that spans 1,000 systems?" The human ambassador's expression didn't change. "We will do what humans have always done when pushed to the brink. We will adapt and we will survive. The question is whether the Nexus Empire will." 3 months later, Melissa Chen floated in zero gravity aboard the research vessel Prometheus, her fingers dancing across holographic displays that would have been incomprehensible to any non-human observer. Around her, the cramped laboratory buzzed with activity as her team made final preparations. "The quantum resonance cascade is stable," reported Dr. Okafor from his station. "But Melissa, are we really going to do this? The simulations show it will work," Melissa interrupted, her dark eyes never leaving the swirling pattern of energy contained within the magnetic field generators. "The Nexus Empire thinks they understand warfare because they've mastered conventional weapons. They don't realize that humans have been dreaming of impossible things for millennia." She touched her communication panel. "Bridge, this is Chen. We're ready to begin the field test." Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through the speakers. "Melissa, I need to ask one more time. Are you absolutely certain about the targeting parameters?" Melissa's expression hardened as she thought of the images from the Nexus Empire's latest attack on New Geneva. Entire cities reduced to slag. Children's toys scattered among the rubble. "The Nexus home system, Captain. All 7 planets, including their capital world. The quantum cascade will propagate through their sun and sterilize every world in the system simultaneously." "God help us," Rodriguez whispered. "Initiate the test." Melissa activated the device and reality itself seemed to hiccup. The energy pattern in the containment field suddenly expanded, then contracted to a single point of impossible brightness. For a moment that lasted an eternity, space around the Prometheus warped and twisted. Then it was over. "Cascade successful," Melissa reported, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they'd just accomplished. "The quantum field has propagated exactly as predicted. Target system will experience stellar destabilization in approximately 14 hours. 14 hours later, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The delegate from the hegemony, a crystalline being whose thoughts manifested as colored light patterns, spoke first. "The Nexus home system, it's gone. All 7 planets. The star itself has collapsed into a neutron star. 17 billion Nexus citizens. How is this possible?" Ambassador Barris stood once again at the podium, his expression grim but resolute. 3 months ago, I warned this council that the Nexus Empire was making a grave mistake. I told you that humans would adapt and survive. What I didn't tell you was how. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs as holographic displays showed the impossible. A star system that had been thriving just hours before was now a graveyard of twisted metal and collapsed matter. "For 50 years, you've all dismissed humanity as a minor species," Barris continued. "You saw our short lifespans, our relatively weak bodies, our emotional nature, and assumed we were insignificant. What you failed to understand is that those very characteristics, our urgency, our fragility, our passion, drive us to achieve what others consider impossible. Warprime Zethak, One of the few Nexus survivors who had been off-world during the cascade stood on shaking legs. You destroyed an entire system, 17 billion of my people. You destroyed 3 of our worlds first, Barris replied without emotion. We warned you to stop. You chose not to listen. The crystalline delegate's light patterns shifted to deep red, a sign of extreme distress. How do we know you won't use this weapon on others? How do we know any of us are safe? Barris turned to address the full assembly. Because unlike the Nexus Empire, humanity doesn't seek conquest. We warned them, gave them multiple opportunities to cease their aggression. They chose to continue their attacks on civilian targets. He paused, letting his words sink in. The weapon that destroyed the Nexus system has a single-use quantum matrix. It cannot be replicated or reused, but the knowledge to create it, that remains with humanity. The silence that followed was deafening. Let this serve as a lesson to any who would threaten human worlds, Barris concluded. We are a young species, yes. We are small in number compared to the great empires. But we are also the species that looked at an impossible weapon and built it in 3 months. We are the species that will sacrifice everything to protect our own. He gathered his materials and turned to leave. The Nexus Empire chose to test human resolve. They no longer exist to regret that choice. As Ambassador Barris walked from the chamber, not a single delegate spoke. In the depths of space, the neutron star that had once been the Nexus system's sun continued its lonely rotation, a testament to what happened when someone pushed humanity too far. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson that day. Humans might be newcomers to the stars, but they had brought something with them that no other species possessed: the absolute refusal to go quietly into extinction, and the terrifying ingenuity to ensure that anyone who threatened them would go first.